Hey, good morning. How's it going today, guys? So we're going to talk about some equipment that we see on vessels, and I think that it's important. It's not always known. People don't always know what they are, so we're going to talk about those things today and show you a couple of things that are an everyday usage on a lot of vessels. One is for retrieving things out of the water. So you have a couple of different options when you're retrieving stuff out of the water or people out of the water. Not everybody has all of these different options. I've been to vessels that have both and some that only have one. Let's talk about your boat pole, okay? A boat pole usually has a brass tip or some kind of metal tip. It's blunt on the end. It's got a round knob and a hook on it. This is usually for recovering people or sensitive things out of the water. They can be made of, generally the ones that I see are made out of ash. Most people, government vessels, military vessels. I don't know of a whole lot of civilian vessels that have these, maybe some tall ships, but you could speak up and say if your vessel does. One interesting thing that some people don't know is that why is there a ridge? There's a ridge that goes down the center, a notch that's down the center. And I didn't know for the longest time either, until I asked somebody, a manufacturer actually, hey, what's that notch down the center for? That notch that runs down the center of that is in line with the hook. So if you're trying to retrieve someone or something from underwater, that ridge lets you know, gives you a reference to know which way your hook is pointed so that when it's underwater, oh, I know that I'm getting my hook. So boat poles, Coast Guard has them, we have them. Only a couple of people manufacture, make real good ones. I think you might find some online from another marine supply stores, but mostly you're gonna have to special order these. But a great tool, they come in different lengths. I know that this one is made of ash, but a great tool. And I'd rather have you stick that at me than what I'm gonna show you next. So you only have a piece of it right now, so I'm not gonna bring one of the large ones in here, but what we call at our school, and that stuff would be a pike pole, okay? It's usually made of aluminum, has varying lengths, 20 feet down to 6 feet. It'd be sharp or blunt on the end, depending on your application, then a sharp hook. These are used for, or were used for logs, moving logs around in the water. Also, I've been told by manufacturer that firefighters use these to punch up through the tops of like sheetrock and pull out if there's a fire in your attic. But for our marine application, we can use them to recover people in the water. I mean, if the only way that you're gonna get me out of the water is to stab me with a pike pole or whatever you call it, because I know that they don't call pike poles everywhere, stabby things, whatever you call it. But you could recover me out of the water with this. I'd rather not. It's kind of a sharp tip, and some of them have sharp tips on the end, but whatever it takes to get a person out of the water. So this would be what we refer to as a pike pole. You can leave me a comment and tell me what you call them where you're at, but they're aluminum. Generally they float, and that's what we consider to use a pike pole. We have them in all of our vessels. We don't have as many boat hooks. We generally use our boat hooks for our lifeboat portion of our class. So this might be the way that we recover you, a life ring, debris, things that are in the water, or to move things around in the water. And we call that a pike pole. Again, this is just the tip of one, but they come in varying lengths from 6 feet to 20 feet or more. Another thing that we're gonna talk about, a PV, okay? A PV is used for logging, right? If you got a log and you don't want to get your saw down into the dirt and the muck and that stuff, you stab this in there, this comes here, and you can use it to roll a log, right? They can also use this for application of moving logs in the water. It also has for us an additional use, one that they use out here on the West Coast a lot. You can remove the hook part and use the PV in this fashion, right? And we can use this to roll over like a shackle that we need to get to if it's on a wire or a chain. We can use it to move heavy deck equipment that's in an odd position and use it for leverage. Stick it in a shackle or a ring and rotate it over so we can get to it. So that's one of the uses that we use a PV for. Again, we call this a PV. You might have a different name for it. And it has a couple of different applications. Like I said, one for logging and one for working on deck. Now, some people might use like a real long breaker bar. Some people call them toothpicks, things like that. But this is one of the tools that we have for moving rigging and stuff around on deck. So that covers those some of those tools right there. Let's talk about something you might not be familiar with or you might not have ever used. Let's talk about a serving mallet, okay? This is a very large serving mallet. Now, actually, this is a piece of history here. This was used for the seine nets, the horse seining on the Columbia River when they would serve the lines of the seine nets. So what is serving? It's a process of covering like a 3-strand line and protecting it. So what you would first do is you would run some line in between the grooves of the 3-strand, right? And that's called worming, okay? And so you would take, it actually takes 3 pieces and you wrap it around and it basically fills in that gap of your 3-strand, okay? And after that, you would parcel it. And parceling is like using strips of sheet or some kind of cloth. You could use like an ace bandage or something. It's like wrapping that around, right? And now you're protecting, creating a layer around that line. And then the last part of it would be serving. And you take this mallet and basically, and I'm gonna try to do a video in the future. I have probably wormed, parcel, and served like 3 things in my whole life, and they were for fun, not for real. So my experience, not so much. Matthew Otto, the Rigging Loft on YouTube. He has excellent videos on worming, parceling, and serving. You could check him out, but I'm gonna attempt to do it on my own here with a smaller one, not this one. But basically what you would do is you're wrapping line around that parceling super, super tight, right? That line that would be nice and soft and flexible, once you've wormed and parceled it and served it, would be more like this piece of wood. It would be completely stiff. And then what you would do with it is you would coat it with something called Stockholm tar, which is basically a pine tar mixed with boiled linseed oil, so kind of soupy and pasty, and then they brush that stuff on there. And what it does is it creates a barrier to your natural fiber line. It makes it incredibly stiff, right? You're gonna use that things on standing rigging, for standing rigging, stuff that doesn't move. And you're also gonna protect it from getting wet, rotting, things like that. So that's a process, worming, parceling, and serving. And again, later on, I'm gonna try to do a video on the worming, parceling, and serving, but not today. I have another one here. I actually found this this mallet head in a box a long time ago here at the school, but it had no handle. So I just fashioned a piece of broom handle off of it, more for demonstration, but I'm gonna plan on using it. So one of those things you need to know about is the worming, parceling, and serving. Also, another excellent video would be from Des Pawson. He has one where he shows it on his tour of the Knot Museum in England, and he shows you how to worm, parcel, and serve. He talks about the difference between serving boards and serving mallets. So it's not something that we practice a whole lot in the maritime industry anymore. Mostly you'll see it on tall ships, maybe some sailboats, things like that, but you're not gonna find a whole lot of worming, parceling, and serving in like soft line. There's a process of serving wire rope. Again, kind of outdated in the days of now we have swaged fittings and things like that, but it's still part of our history. It's still part of the thing that you need to know when you're in seamanship is what is a serving mallet, what is worming, parceling, and serving. So here's a couple of examples. And again, they come in different sizes. And to talk about Des Pawson again, he'll give you the difference between a serving board and a serving mallet. And one was used by military and one was used by merchant mariners. It's an excellent video, check it out. So those are just a few of the tools. Again, I wanna review with you real quick. This is what we call a pike pole. And again, I've only got the top half of it, but it's an aluminum pole of various lengths, usually has a wood knob on it. And it's used for either retrieving things out of the water or moving logs or objects around the water. It's light and very pokey. Again, a boat hook. This is used more to recover people out of the water or things that you don't want to damage. It's got a ridge along the along it to show you in what direction the hook is pointed, so you'll know that. And then we'll talk about the PV. Again, has a couple of applications. One, it can be used to move logs around in the water or rotate logs. Also, if we take off this hook like I did earlier, we can use it to roll over shackles, chain, those kind of things. What do we talk about? The chain binders or ratchet binders. You know, if they get twisted into a position and you can't get to them, you can use this to rotate them over so you can get a good advantage. So again, those are just a couple of things that you might see on vessels and you might encounter, and that's what their uses are for. Like if you have questions about that or anything, just give me a shout, and you guys have a good day. We'll see you guys in a bit.